one step ahead and out of reach. Whoa, an empty hole I couldn't fill until I stopped looking out and faced my questions in. And now I find
I can have it all the time.
and I never have to wait again for my good. In spite of my greed,
I got everything I need.
and I never have to wait again for my good. No, 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 I never have to wait again for my good.
Never do, never do.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. It's a great topic for us today.
All right, what would you like us to move here? This one, maybe?
Just one of them.
You're going to use this one or that one?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Let's use this one. All right. That's a little high. I feel like I'm. That's okay. All right. Good morning. So good to see everybody here today on this blustery day, as Piglet would say, right? Blustery day. All right, so we are moving right along our third week of our January series about getting grounded and back to basics of our teachings. And so just to give you kind of a recap, that first week, it was about the thing itself, that Dr. Ernest Holmes called the divine source, energy, God, spirit, whatever it is that we want to call it. And this is that idea that all that there is, everything that is present, all that this expression is a spiritual expression of that one life, that one thing that he called the thing itself. And how important it is for us to begin our practice this way. That when we move into this new idea of the study of the science of mind, is that we start with this very foundational understanding of what do we mean when we say God, or the divine, or the thing itself, or the spiritual essence. And Dr. Holmes said, the highest realization we can have is a recognition of the omnipresence in spirit. This will set greater possibilities in motion and will automatically provide a better concept of life. So this is the foundational idea that we come back to of just what is it that we believe, that we think, how is it that we experience this divine energy in and through our lives as us. And when we do that, when we create this idea of this omnipresence of the spiritual essence, that creates this container for a concept of a greater life, an expanded life. And so that's the very first thing we do. And then last week we talked about the way it works and the power of our thought, the creative power of our thought. And this is an idea, it's an idea and a concept that is many mystical teachings, all great traditions have talked about it, but Dr. Ernest Holmes found a way to talk about it that kind of helped us in our human minds of how to talk about it. And so he talked about this divine essence that I just mentioned, he called it love with a capital L. So there's this loving energy, this loving presence, and that there has to be some way for it to express out in the world, that the only way it can express is through us, right? It's through life itself. And so that there's a vehicle of that, and he called it the law. We sometimes talk about the law of attraction or the law of cause and effect, and he thought of it as like a soil that this creative energy moved into to create in the world. So when we talk about the law, we're talking about that mechanism, whatever that might be, that takes our thoughts, our beliefs, our ideas, and moves it into physical form. So everything starts with a thought, right? Even, in the Bible it says, in the beginning there was the Word. So that energy of the divine was a word that moved through this creative process into the physical world. And because we're part of that creative process, we have that same ability to take that creative process of our word, move it through the law into our physical experience. So Dr. Holmes said, love points the way, and law makes the way possible. So it's this two aspects of the divine, of this loving energy, this presence, this power, this personal experience, and then there's this law that is impersonal, that doesn't care. It's like the soil, doesn't really care. It's not going to say, don't plant that. You don't want that. It just takes whatever we plant it. And the power about this, and this is what's so beautiful about our teachings, is because we have this beautiful personal energy, this loving essence, and yet we have this impersonal mechanism that empowers us. So we don't have to please a God that's outside of us. We don't have to be born into the right place or born into the right skin color or we don't have to have, there's nothing that keeps us from experiencing that empowering ability to create in our life. And there's nothing that we have to do or that we can do to play favorites to that law. That is just working, just working. So this is a beautiful idea, right? This is a beautiful combination of these two things, this empowering, loving presence and this impersonal nature of the mechanism that creates in our world. And so understanding these two things is how it works, which is we're going to talk today about so what does all that mean? How does this come, how do we use this? How do we take hold of this information and create a successful life, successful living, which was I'm talking about, the principles of successful living, which is based on chapter 16 of our Science of Mind textbook. So when we think about that, what do we mean by successful, right? Everybody has their idea of success. And so oftentimes when we think of success, we think it means, the material aspects. We might be successful in our career, we might be successful in our relationships or even our health or our material good, our financial good. And certainly our teachings can help in that arena. That the very basic idea of our teachings is that we can utilize these ideas and our thoughts to create a better world for ourselves. And so that level of success is very much a part of our teachings, of that we can, if we utilize these teachings, if we practice these things, if we change our thinking, if we do our meditation, if we practice our spiritual mind treatment, which is our form of affirmative prayer, then our lives are going to change. That we can create better relationships. We can definitely create financial good in our lives. We can change what's going on in our physical bodies to express physical health. And so this is a big part of our teaching, and Ken Wilber, an integral theorist, talks about this type of spirituality as translational spirituality. Translational spirituality is the ability to translate what is going on now to something else that we want to experience. And this is a very foundational belief, our practice of our understanding. We teach it in our foundational class. We teach it on Sunday mornings on all the different practices we have. And then we have those tools to help us. There's another form of spirituality called transformational spirituality. And transformational spirituality is, it's where we go beyond the physical manifestations of life, and we transform our very understanding of who we are. So oftentimes the what we do in our teachings, the translational, kind of can keep our ego pretty happy. We can really hide. We can kind of say, okay, this is just going to keep me comfortable and all these good things that I want in my life. Transformational spirituality can make us uncomfortable because it's not about keeping the ego happy and keeping everything comfortable. It's about exploring the depths of who we are, breaking beyond those boundaries to a transformational experience of the divine essence of who we are, regardless of what our material world is like. And so this is an exciting part of our teaching, and it's both and. So when I talk about the principles of successful living, I want to come from both of these ideas of how we can, in a translational way, create good in our life, but then also from this place of transforming, even the understanding of who we are. I was listening to a talk by David Alexander. He's one of our ministers in Atlanta, and he shared this analogy about our how we can use our teachings, and he used it as an analogy of a swimming pool. And he said, in a swimming pool, there is the shallow end of the pool. And, it's where you get in and it's, you can play and it's kind of comfortable. And it made me think of when my children were growing up, when they were little, we lived in Arizona and there was a pool in every corner. And because it's so hot, we spent a lot of time in the pools. And a lot of the recreational areas had these zero entry pools where you can just walk right in. You don't have to step down, you don't have to climb down a ladder. You just walk right in and it just steadily gets deeper and deeper. So there's this beautiful area. I love the idea of that zero entry. Like there's no effort needed to begin this path. Like it's wherever you are, wherever you start. And you can stay there. That's the shallow end of the pool is a really fun place. It usually has some little slides, things you can play on. You can, it might be an umbrella. You can just relax. There's all this really nice, wonderful stuff in the shallow end. But that's not the whole pool, right? And so as you go deeper into the pool, things get deeper. And you have more to explore, but you need more skill, right? And things are a little bit more dangerous. So you gotta kind of learn how to swim, and you gotta have some skills, and oftentimes you need other people around. But when you get into that deeper end, worlds open up, and you can go up on the high diving board and go deeper. And so he was explaining this is the way we use our teaching. So many of us just really like to stay in the shallow end and paddle around, and that's really good and okay, but there's this deeper end that if we want to take our teachings deeper. And I was thinking about that, and I thought, it made me expand my idea of this analogy of that's still a pool, right? It's still a finite pool. There's only so much you can do in this pool, even going to the deeper end. And it felt to me that's a great analogy of the translational teaching part of our teaching, where we stay in our finite area and we just learn to grow and experience in that. And so what I thought about was, maybe it's more like being the edge of an ocean. That the transformational spirituality is that you still have that zero entry from the beach, but you can stay on the beach. Many of us do. We stay on the beach. You can create a lot on the beach, right? You create castles. You can explore, find, shells and crabs. My son used to love to find little crabs and shells. I remember one time when he was about 3 years old, he was looking down we were on the beach, and he was looking down, and he said, "Oh, this just tickles my brain." Just loved this, of all these creatures. And we used to go to Rocky Point down in Mexico and go to the beach. And so this can be a really exciting place, right? But then, if you decide to go deeper into the ocean, past that shore, what is there? Sharks. Sharks, yes. But there is unknown. It's the unknown. And that's what transformational spirituality brings you, is opening up to the unknown, the depths of who we are. And sometimes that's scary, and sometimes it can be painful, because sometimes we find out things that we didn't know about ourselves, or that we have a belief system that we didn't realize was creating in our world, or we have a belief about another person or a whole group of people that we may not even known that we had. And so transformational spirituality must include this willingness to explore the depths of who we are, and be willing to continue that deep practice of moving out into deeper and deeper waters, moving out into unknown waters necessarily. And so for transformational spirituality, it takes needing to be curious, to go beyond the shore, a willingness to explore the depths of our unknown, and it takes more practice, right? It takes specialized tools, equipment. If we want to go deep into the ocean, we have to create some gear. It also usually takes other people. It's hard to go deep sea diving by yourself. You go with a group of people in this deeper process. And so I think when we think about the principles of successful living, from translational in the pool to the transformational, which is in the ocean, we begin to maybe change our idea of what it means to be successful. If we're exploring the material aspects of our life, absolutely, we can find success. And if we want to to explore the depths of who we are through shadow work, through deeper conversations about our bias, our belief systems, then that is available to us as well. And so that first principle really is to be willing to explore the depths of unknown, and to practice. Dr. Holmes says, the way it works, I always love when he'll say that, just, okay, this is the way it works, just listen up. So the way it works is to begin right where we are, and through constantly applying ourselves to the truth, the capital T, we gradually increase in wisdom and understanding. For it is this way alone will good results be attained. So he's telling us, start where you are. Start at that zero entry, wherever it is. And that if we're constantly applying ourselves to this truth, we gradually expand. We gradually create our more wisdom and more understanding. He said, if day by day we have a greater understanding and a clearer concept, if daily we are realizing more truth and applying it in our actions, then we are on the right path. We are on the right path. And to me, that is what a successful life is about. That if day by day we have a greater understanding and a clearer concept, if daily we are realizing more truth and applying it in our action, then we are on the right path. And eventually we shall be made free. He said, it's a wonderful experiment and a great adventure to make conscious use of the law. Conscious use of the law to feel that we can plant an idea in mind and see it gradually take form. I love this. I love his enthusiasm and his excitement, because he was a very curious guy. When he was growing up, they called him the human question mark. Because he asked a lot of questions. He was always asking questions. And so you can hear it in this. It's like, what a cool, wonderful experiment we have. A great adventure. And the adventure is to make conscious use of the law. Consciously bringing into awareness, a new understanding, a new practice of the power of our thought and the power that we have to create things. And so he always said, don't believe me, prove it. Prove it yourself. Practice yourself. Find that inner understanding of how these principles work and prove it for yourself. And that's what he's saying there. It's a wonderful experiment. It's a great adventure. Can you imagine if whenever a challenge came to us, we just said, oh, what a great adventure. What a wonderful opportunity to explore and to see, well, how can I manifest something new? How can I create something new? And so this is the power of this the teaching that we have, that we can come to this transformational place, but we have to be willing to do the work, and not only individually but collectively, because this is that we go along together, we practice it together, and so be willing to explore. Be willing to practice, and be willing to let the law work in our lives. So this goes back to this idea that there's this law that is working. And the beautiful thing about it is that we don't have to do that work. It's not our job to make it work. We just allow it to work in our life. So Dr. Holmes says, the student, and he all thought we were all, this we're talking to us, we're all the students. So the student should take time every day to see their life as they wish it to be, to make a mental picture of their ideal. They should pass this picture over to the law and go about their business. Release it to the law, go about their business with calm assurance that on the inner side of life, something is taking place. He says, there should be no sense of hurry or worry about this, just a calm, peaceful sense of reality. Let the law work through and express itself in this experience. There should be no idea of compulsion. We do not need to have to make the law work. In its nature to work. In gladness, then, we should make known our desires, and in confidence, we should wait upon the perfect law to manifest through us. The key there is manifest through us. So that doesn't mean we don't have to act, but when we align with it and allow it to move through us, then it's a much more powerful thing. He says that our part is to be ready and willing to be guided into truth and liberty. If in the making of a demonstration it becomes necessary to change our mode of living, then the law will point the way and we will follow. Our correct choice will be part of the working of the law. And now a long way to say is that when we do our inner work, we trust and know that the guidance is given to us. Where is we're supposed to go? What is it we're supposed to do? How we're supposed to be will show up for us. I was thinking about, I think I shared with you last week about my vision of my ministry when I was in ministerial school, and I would sit and I would think about, what I wanted to experience, and I would imagine the people in the room, and I would imagine, just all these things about what I wanted to draw to me. And I was kind of clear that I didn't want to stay in the Southwest or the West, where it seemed like there was lots of opportunities for this teaching, that I wanted to go someplace east. And I kind of joked that I didn't realize my treatment worked so well that I ended up all the way over on the East Coast. But I did this, I aligned myself, I did this work, I trusted in the law, and then one day I was sitting at in my office. I was working while I was going through ministerial school, and I get this call, and it's from the mother of a really good friend of mine who had been in ministerial school with me, and she had gone on and had already graduated, and her mother was on the search team for this community in Falls Church. And her mother had asked my friend, who is graduating that you think would be a wonderful minister? And she said, call my friend Sunday. I didn't know this person when she called me. I just knew her as my friend's mother. So she calls me, she's here, and she calls me and she says, we want to bring you out, and we call it candidating. That's the interviewing process in ministerial. You go and you candidate, and it's a really big deal. You go for a weekend usually, and you have to meet everybody, and you do a workshop, and you have to speak on Sunday. It's like this big event. And she said, we want to bring you out. And she said, it'll be great. And I was thinking, Washington, D.C. This was in 93. And it had that great reputation of being the murder capital of the world, and I was from the Southwest and had lived in the country all my life, and I was like, Washington, D.C., I don't know about that. And I was a little country girl, and, my friend's mom said, you know what, just come out. Just come out. It'll be great practice for you, and, we'll take you down to D.C., you can do the whole tourist bit. It'll be great. And I was like, okay, let me think about it. So I hung up the phone, and I was sitting there, and I looked over in my little page-a-day calendar. I hadn't turned it over yet for that day. And I was like, should I go? I picked up the calendar, I turned it over, and it said, visit Washington, D.C. Do the tourist thing. And I was like, I wish I could have said, oh yeah, thank you, God. I knew that was going to happen. Yes, thanks for that great sign. But I was like, oh my, and I ran to my friends. I'm like, look. They're all like, what? Go to D.C.? And of course, I did go to D.C., and I ended up getting that job, and I ended up becoming the closest friend to the mother of my minister friend. She's godmother of our children, and that's where I met these three right here, sitting in the front row. And I met my husband there, and and I met you too. Yes, yes, and so this this is just one example of that, right? Of how we align ourselves to what it is that we want. We move into that feeling level of what it is that we want to experience. And then we do our work. We do our prayer work, our meditation work. We vision it. And then we have to trust. We allow that law to bring it to us in a certain way. And when it's ours to move, because I didn't just sit there, it said go to D.C. I had to buy a plane ticket. I had to drive. I had to go. I eventually had to pack all my stuff and move across country. All that happened. But when we align that with the divine truth of who we are, and we can trust in that unfoldment. And so Dr. Holmes says, people often say, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to make a choice. We must realize that there is an intelligence within us that does know. We can say, I don't know. But we have to know that there's an intelligence within us that does know. And when we remember that, things can unfold in powerful ways. So some of the practices that when we want to align ourselves with these principles of successful living, the practices, Tamara mentioned it earlier, the stillness, right? The taking the time, because, we can't hear that divine voice if we're talking. If we're like, yada, yada, but God, yeah, I want this, God, I want this, yeah, there's no time to stop and hear that divine wisdom. And so Dr. Holmes says, when the mind is peaceful and still, it catches a vision of this greater good. While the mind is in turmoil and combat, it cannot receive an image beyond the limiting circle of the small measure in which it has been treading around. So we're treading around this little circle in our shallow end of the pool, right? We don't hear. We can't hear. We can't catch that vision. And so that practice, that inner practice, is so powerful for us to do. And then there has to be an opening to receive, which goes back to understanding that we are a divine expression of God and we are worthy of our good. Oftentimes we won't allow that good in because we don't realize that we are amazing expressions of this God presence, and we are deserving of our good. So cultivate this willingness and this capacity to receive, to open ourselves up to the good. A simple practice is being in a place of gratitude. And every day we sit in stillness and we express our gratitude for the good that we have in our life and the good to come. Jesus, when he did his healing, he always started with thank you. Thank you, God, it's already done. He started that way in a place of gratitude that it was already done. And so ultimately, these are practices for us to do. And the bottom line is also that we can't do it alone, that we need each other, that we need to stand up for each other, to be a presence for each other, and to get all that gear and to go out to the ocean to do that deep dive. We need each other. And so I want to end with this sharing. It's from in celebration of Martin Luther King Day tomorrow, his birthday and his legacy. Krista Tippett from her radio show On Being had an interview with Ruby Sales a couple of years ago, and they were revisiting this talk. And I just want to share some of what was shared. It was a 2016 interview with civil rights elder Ruby Sales, who was a teenager when she marched from Selma to Montgomery in 1965. She says she was motivated to join the Southern Freedom Movement not merely because she was angry about injustice, but because she loved justice itself. Her orientation towards envisioning a more just and loving world has sustained her life's work of activism and can offer inspiration for all of us. Most people, she says, begin their conversation with, "I hate this," but they never talk about what it is that they love. She said when she, she continues on and says, "We have to begin to have a conversation that incorporates a vision of love with a vision of outrage." Again, as we talked about this whole last year, it's not about denying the physical acts in the world and what it is that we need to change. And sometimes there's a righteous rage that moves us forward when we see injustice being done and pain and being done. It's okay to use that in our world, but she says we have to begin by incorporating this vision of love in addition. And I don't see those things as being over and against each other. You can't talk about injustice without talking about suffering. But the reason why I want to have justice is because I love everybody in my heart. And if I didn't have that feeling, that sense, then there would be no struggle. The non-negotiability of love as a possibility between people was also a source of empowerment for John Lewis, who participated in the marches alongside Sales. Love is strong, love is powerful, he says. The civil rights movement created what I like to call a nonviolent revolution. It was love at its best. It was one of the highest forms of love. That you beat me, you arrest me, you take me to jail, you almost kill me, but in spite of that, I'm going to still love you. And of course, Martin Luther King Jr. himself spoke into existence a powerful vision of love. I'm not talking about emotional bosh when I talk about love, he said in a 1967 speech. I'm talking about a strong, demanding love. For I have seen too much hate. I have seen too much hate on the faces of the sheriffs in the South. I've seen hate on the faces of too many Klansmen and too many white citizen counselors in the South to want to hate myself, because every time I see it, I know that it does something to their faces and their personalities, and I say to myself that hate is too great a burden to bear. I have decided to love. This brings this idea of love points the way and the law makes the way possible into an even deeper understanding, doesn't it? So we have this love, but it moves through us. And this power of this love is what creates a successful life. So we can open ourselves up to that divine expression of who we are. We can relax into the knowing that that law is working for us. We can use that law by envisioning what it is that we want to experience in our world. And we must open ourselves up to love. Let's do this now in our spiritual practice together. If you'd like to close your eyes. How good it is to remember that love points the way and the law makes the way possible. So in this moment, let us just breathe down into that divine truth. Move into that heart space right now and breathe into a moment of stillness. It's such a sacred time to sit in silence and stillness with the people that are on the path with us. It's such a treasure and an opportunity. And so in this moment, I want us just to acknowledge that as we sit in the sacred silence together. Just being in that silent place. Call forth within your heart an experience of love that you've had in your life. It can be the unconditional love you feel for another human being or a pet. It could be a beautiful place that you've been where you're just filled with the love of the nature, the beauty. Whatever it is that conjures up this expansive awareness of unconditional love, let it just fill up your heart right now. Notice how it fills up your body. Bring in all your senses. What does it sound like? How does it look? How does it feel? There might even be a taste. This is love. And as you allow this sense of love to fill your whole being, turn that love towards you as though you are the object of that unconditional love. So however you were feeling for that person or that pet or that place, just try to feel that unconditional love for yourself. And just ground into that awareness of the beauty that you are. And then let this feeling of unconditional love just spill out into this room. If you're watching online, you can feel it as well. Just spill out into this room and touch those around you, in front, behind, next to you. And if you're sitting in this room, feel that love come towards you as well. And as you choose, you can open yourself up to this oneness, this experience of love that is generated in this space. And together we're expanded, we're empowered, we're in a place of love that we can now just cast this vision of love, this feeling, this energy of love beyond these walls to this beautiful campus and all that takes place here during the week. We expand this beautiful idea of love to the town of Leesburg and beyond, and find that place where you came from this morning, the house, the home, all the people who reside there. Expand. Expand this energy of love beyond our personal spaces to the state of Virginia, to beyond the neighboring states, and let us just hover now around our nation's capital. Love is a powerful force. What it is that we love about our democracy, about our freedoms, about the laws that keep us safe, about all the ways, the mechanisms that we have in order to maintain our democracy and our freedom, just claiming and knowing that those are working and functioning in the most perfect way right now within our within our country's capital, and through all the lawmakers. And let us just extend an awareness through this next few weeks as the trial is going on in the Senate. Just know that there is truth and justice and love, and the highest and best is unfolding for our country and for each other. Let us expand to include our whole country and beyond. Just imagine that globe and find a place in that globe, Australia or the Philippines or Puerto Rico or whatever place in this moment that can use this powerful presence of love. In this moment, just cast forth your vision to the universe, and ultimately touching into that greater energy, that greater awareness, the allness of life itself that is beyond us and yet within us. As we allow that expanded awareness of love and of ourselves to remain out in the world, we also bring our awareness back into this space, back into this physical body, this home that houses our spirit, down through your heart, into your feet, grounding into Mother Earth, returning back into the space, and just notice if that expanded awareness of love has shifted you in some way. This time that we spend together in spiritual practice changes us. It matters. It's from this place of expanded awareness that I give great gratitude, that I know that the words that I have spoken and this vision that we have cast together is already done. We joyfully let go into that law, knowing that it is already working. And we await for that divine truth within us to know what is ours to do. And we release and know it is already done. And we know this together by simply saying, and so it is. So we let it be. So we have another song from our beloved Soul Pajamas. And and slippers or nightcap, I don't know.
All right, so as you might have heard, we decided we'd do three-part harmony this morning when we came in, just for the fun of it. So, well, it is an experiment, and we have the courage to attempt it.